Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Heads Up, where we preview this week's Overwatch League matches, but there aren't any matches this week, so I figured we could talk about the meta and how the week off might actually benefit several teams. Obviously the Summer Showdown was just last week, and still, catching up on some of those matches in the replay viewer and stuff, watching other people break it down, and it's a lot of fun, and I think we can kind of take away some things about these teams that were upset, and some of the teams that pulled off the upsets that might not have happened if the meta wasn't the way it was. This new Genji playstyle seems to be a pretty recent development, I'd say, and so it came down to a lot of the teams who could just grasp it quicker. Specifically, we saw the Valiant struggle to grasp it, we saw the Spark struggle to grasp it, and they end up getting beat pretty easily, pretty handily. And so yeah, I want to talk about some of the teams that might benefit from the week off. I think the Outlaws and the Valiant are both in the same camp for how much they can improve, even though the Outlaws already, pulled off 2 upsets, or at least 1 upset, right? I'm trying to think, did they just beat the Valiant and then lose to the Fusion? Either way, anyways, they played well, and we all liked to see them make it through the first round, even if we didn't quite expect it. And the Valiant kind of failed, but I feel like their rosters are in the same position with why they might improve for an extra week to grasp this meta. Obviously, these 2 teams both loved to play the Tracer, and that was kind of a struggle for them, that they really struggled to, handle the mid-fight against the Genjis. And now that the Genji kind of is getting an indirect nerf with the Brigida armor not being a thing, that might benefit the Tracers in the duels, and so we might see Dante and Shaxx both be able to get back into shining form, because literally like a week or 2 before the Summer Showdown, we saw both of these guys having carry performances. And, now in the Summer Showdown, they both failed pretty hard. Not like, they weren't like getting cut out positionally, but they just weren't able to make as much of an impact. So having another week, in any case, I think would let them adapt to the meta if they wanted to. Continue running that Tracer, and the fact that the nerfs are coming in, I think is going to be big for them as they continue to improve. And I think especially the Outlaws we have to be hyped about, because they were able to beat the Valiant and show that they are a solid team, even if they are, kind of vested in their personnel for the meta. Obviously, the meta might change, but I don't know if that nerf's going to do enough to get rid of the Genji, but at least make it more of a fair fight between the Genji and the Tracer, I'd say. And yeah, so then for the Spark are kind of in the opposite camp, where they do have a good Genji player, but they still failed to impress and kind of got walked on, which was really, really sloppy, which is a shame because I think the big problem is just the new players in the roster. The Spark, obviously last season, were pretty solid, and earlier this year looked pretty promising, and then you bring in QOQ and Architect, who I thought had looked really solid on the Spark up until a week or 2 ago. And Architect looked really sloppy on the Genji with how he worked with his team and positioning and everything, and some of his blades are a bit crazy. And then QOQ, of course, I think overall it really did just come down to a lack of team chemistry and having to adjust to a new meta and all that stuff. And so they were a bit slower to grasp it. We've seen other teams in the league, of course, be slow to grasp metas even if they have been playing together for a while. So for the Spark, I think this extra week will be huge as they figure out their own roster changes that they've been going through. And because they have Architect too, obviously everyone regarded as one of the best Genjis in the world. He was really good when he played for the Shock and stuff, and so maybe I don't want to say this as in like a convincing yes, I'm determined this is what it is, but maybe he benefited from being on a better team where having great teammates like he did on the Shock enabled him. We might see him take a little bit longer to adapt on the Spark, but I doubt that's the case. I think he will be really solid in this meta once they get going a little bit. Maybe Godspeed just isn't the elite DPS player that it's needed for a Widow to be able to compete with players like Happy and Diem, and that kind of shuts down your roster. We saw the Seoul Dynasty get completely walked over by the Dragons, even though there's lots of talk about the Dragons not even grasping the meta that well, but just because the difference in Widowmaker was so great that the Seoul Dynasty got walked on. And maybe that's kind of the case if Godspeed isn't able to put up great performances, but I really think this roster has potential to go forward with a lot of the same signs of promise we saw a few weeks ago, like when they beat the XL in Game 5. So I'm really excited for them moving forward. They're one of my favorite teams in the region, and I think they have what it takes to make it. I think they just need this nice long extra week of practice, learning the meta, forming that chemistry that the new roster always, takes when you put together a few new players in the roster. Other teams that I'm interested in seeing in the upcoming weeks are the Florida Mayhem, because I don't know how great their roster is for the Genji meta. I'm trying to think, them and the Rain as well. The Rain got beat by the Defiant, and the Defiant are I'm still not sold on. I think it was super cool to see them advance past the Reign. And if I had to root for one of those teams, I would have rooted for the Defiant. I like a lot of those players individually, but I'm not like super convinced how great they are. So moving for the Defiant, I think this week will also help them develop, as they have a meta that fits them, and that's what you need when you're a struggling team. You know, if you can get that meta that fits you and show you belong at the top when you got things going your way, who knows how long this meta might last. They might become, you know, really solid at it and switch their reputation from being pretty bad to actually a pretty solid team. But the Reign are another team. The Reign and the Mayhem. I don't like the Reign. I feel like have the DPS talent. They have Edison, Erster, Baby Bay. But actually, didn't Baby Bay just tweet out something like probably his last tournament or whatever? I don't know if he's gonna be retiring or soon or something, or if that's just some weird rumor thing he tweeted. Anyways, the Mayhem. I don't know if they have a super fantastic Genji player, so they might struggle a bit. We might see them be one of those teams who try to adapt to a Widow Tracer, Ashe Tracer style if this nerf is big enough to limit the Genji a little bit. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing them, because this week actually is a matchup between them, or not this week, next week, I'm sorry, on the 19th, is a matchup between the Reign and the Mayhem. And I think those are two of the teams that are kind of right on the brink right now of either being good or bad, and that's going to be a really, really big matchup. The Reign play the Valiant the day before, and so that'll be interesting to see, as well as that those two teams are both looking to rebound. So with that being said, let's take a quick look at the standings here. I want to discuss some thoughts I had on it. The Paris Eternal, even though they got the 3 extra wins to their regular season record for winning this tournament, only moved up 2 spots. They moved up from 8th to 6th. But which obviously says if you add 3 wins to your record and you're only moving up 2 spots, there's a huge, huge, huge gap there. It goes Paris Eternal 12 wins, Florida Mayhem right behind them with 11 wins, and the next closest are the LA Valiant at 8. So like there's a huge gap now between them, which is great to see because they're obviously top talent. And as you push through the rest of the season to get a playoff spot, it's awesome to see you have such a big gap to work with, and you're a dominant team at the moment, so they could really start pushing up the standings a little bit, and that's awesome to see. The Fusion, of course, 17-2 at the top of the NA, and Shanghai Dragons 20-2 overall in the season for the standings. Which the things I want to point out though, the Guangzhou Charge at 3rd place only have a +4 map differential. I was discussing a while ago why I wasn't convinced they were a great team, and it was because they just kept so many close matches. They didn't really dominate, but at the moment they look fantastic. A lot of the other teams are struggling, so going forward I expect that map differential to increase a lot. And kind of the same with the Paris Eternal. They're in 6th place. They have a +5 map differential. The team above them, the NYXL, who only have 1 win more, have a 21 map differential. So the Paris Eternal, again, another team I expect to continue to get that map differential up. I'm so excited to watch this Paris Eternal, guys. Oh, my word. There's so much room for improvement, I feel like. Like, they've already been showing so many signs of improvement lately, and I don't think they played perfect against the Fusion and everything, and that players like FD God, I don't know how long it's going to be, but eventually he's going to get on low ping. Who knows how much that'll make him improve, because he's already nuts, and you know, it's crazy to see. They played so well. I'm so excited. They're such a fun roster to watch. And then, yeah, the Valiant, they have a -1 differential. The Dynasty have a -5, and then the Reign have a +9, even though they're a win behind those two teams. So that's kind of crazy. The Reign are a good team, but I just feel like they're one of those teams that beats the teams they're supposed to beat, but then doesn't really compete much against the big teams. I don't know. Obviously, the Gladiators, they're falling. That's a shame. I don't know how much they're going to improve either. I think they have the potential to bounce back, but not to the point of like a team where I see the Outlaws or the Valiant or Mayhem could rise if they pop off. And then Spitfire, my personal favorite team, still struggling 6 and 7. Kind of got handed the loss by the Dynasty this pack week, didn't they? But anyways, they've showed a lot of potential this season, and I think we can be happy with how they've been performing so far with their completely rookie roster. I am interested to see how it goes between like the battle of like the Justice and the Fuel and the Defiant and the Titans now, all at the bottom of the standings. They're all really, really low in wins this season. But with the new meta shifts and everything, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, like the Defiant, they looked pretty solid. And the Fuel had Decay come back, but then they got beat by the eventual champions, the Eternal, so who knows really how to judge that. The Titans, you know, they got beat as well. And the Justice actually did alright, and 2 was a pretty good Genji, and he might actually be able to help carry them forward some. So I think the bottom of the standings is actually pretty interesting, more interesting than it's been for a while in the league now. And so that's exciting to watch. So keep your heads up as we keep moving forward the next few weeks, and this weekend, even though I don't have any Overwatch League action, these teams are definitely going to be prepping for the new meta if there is one, or getting a handle on this one. So I've been Emrat, and I'll see you next time.